So that would be good.
My pinky doesn't like to cooperate though.
Well, I don't have full use of my pinky.
Mine gets stuck.
Well, I smashed it years ago. That's why when I play, I use this finger.
I noticed that last night.
Instead of the A, because this pinky doesn't work. I have no feeling down half of it. I was actually playing soccer with my brother. And I was in goal, and he kicked the ball, and I broke all my fingers. And this one got smashed so bad. It's like I can use it for some things, but I don't have the strength in it that I have to make a conscious effort to get my position where I've got real purchase on that. So I have to compensate. So this will be do as I say, not as I do. Johnny.
Mike.
Hi, Mike.
That's the honorary Gene friend of mine's coming. Okay.
Yeah, I do everything wrong that actually won't help you. I don't use a shoulder rest, I don't use a chin rest, And it's as the more I played, the more I wanted to dispense with them because they actually made me really uncomfortable. And I like the feeling of it lying right up against my collarbone like this, and I can actually feel and hear it through my head really easily when it sits up against here.
Yeah.
And in kind of compensation for that, I use a higher bridge to allow for the fact that I've taken away that space. Resonating space, so I just use a higher bridge. And a lot of people can't play this fiddle because they say the action's too high. But it also forces me into placing my fingers down in a more positive manner, which always helps the tone of things along. Sometimes if it's too easy to get the note out, you forget you can actually go further with it, But I got this fiddle I got made for me about 18 years ago. When I had a beautiful old Darazi violin, and it was stolen in New York City from the trunk of my car. And I still have someone on retainer who looks for it for me. Because it was one of 7. And at the time, all the money I had in the world I put into this fiddle. I bought it and had it restored. And it was an extra few thousand to have it restored. And then I was moving from Pennsylvania up to New England, and I was in New York City to sign some papers. And all of the things that were most personal to me in my life were in the trunk of my car. The ones that I didn't want to trust to the movers.
Right.
And I was literally out of the car for 10 minutes, and when I came back, I couldn't get my key in the trunk. And so I called a locksmith, and he took one look at it and said, "Geez, your car's been broken into." And I could feel my legs going to jelly, And I opened it up, and there was nothing there. They'd taken everything. There was 300 hours worth of tapes, and all the stuff I had written for a new album. All of that stuff went. I lost 4 bows, actually 2 fiddles, and a guitar, and photographs from the time I was a kid, all of that stuff. And the only thing and a lot of my own music that I loved, the only thing they left was a little doll that said "sorry" on it that my mother had bought me because she broke her bottom plate of false teeth, and I had to stop in Inverness to get them fixed. And she told me it was only going to take 20 minutes, but she lied. It was like 7 hours. So I was kind of pissed, She bought me this little doll, but the only thing that was left in the trunk of the car, sitting in the middle, was this little doll that said "sorry," and in its hands was the Chipmunks Christmas tape. That's the only thing that he left.
And you can laugh about that now.
I can now. I still get on the cover of my the Fair Warning CD I have. That is the head of that fiddle, and on the back that's the fiddle, and I loved it. And it had this beautiful, warm tone. It was like a big old French violin, and it's perfect for. I was doing a lot of solo shows at that time, and it's really important to have a fiddle that, for me to have a big full voice, and it's still great for the tunes. And in fact, this fiddle was made by a woman called Susan Davis at the North Bennett School in Boston, and she based the shape of this and the tone of this on the other fiddle.
So it looks pretty beat up.
Yes, kind of like myself. It does. Well, before when the chin rest was on this, and eventually that kills. It just wears away.
Yeah.
That's just it's wear and tear, and I find that it's sounding better and better as the years go by. So I don't want to mess with it by actually going and getting a revarnishing job or anything like that, because it's fine the way it is, and it's all good and worn in on the. I think that fiddle's such a great instrument because they become very personal. You can tell the way the person played before you by what's worn into the neck of the fiddle. You can see what they've been doing, been using, and it takes a while to make it yours. So, yeah, it is beat up. But
this guy just held his fiddle. He held it right here while he sat and waited to play.
Like that, yeah.
He was in Broadway, played on Broadway.
Oh, there you go. So there'll be a lot of
He
holding.
sat there.
Yeah, that's great. That's the reason. So anyhow, I'm supposed to get going. Well, I think the easiest way, because I'm sure probably everyone's kind of at different stages. Maybe if you just want to ask me some questions, and I'll see if I can.
I'd like to know how you do that triplet.
Me too.
Which
and you do
one?
it so fast. I can't see
Which
your
triplet is
hand.
the bowed or?
The boat triplet.
Oh, jeez, I don't know.
Actually, is it just a...
I think a lot of these. There could be is that the one?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't do these things very often because I don't have a clue what the hell I do. I mean, I've been playing this since I was 5, and it's very much just like a part of me. So therefore, I don't tend to think about it. I never have sat and actually worked out what I'm doing.
maybe you could just do it a few times.
So I think it's this. It's like a normal triplet, and then so you do your bow triplet, and then the next note down, and then the same again. And the thing is, it's all from the wrist. Really, I mean, the whole way I play, everything just comes from my wrist. I use my elbow and forearm as a kind of counterweight. So, like, if you want to kind of bounce things around, it's easier. And a way to get that happening, if you have a hard time with that, is to practice with, if you have a straight back chair, not a round back chair, and stick your arm around one side of it, and kind of immobilize your arm, and just get used to it. And that's a good, I mean, it's very aggravating, and, you know, to do it, you have to kind of like really force yourself into it, but that really helps get your wrist very supple. And then also, when you can play everything within a smaller range of the bow, especially when it comes to the tunes, then when you need a big bow, you've got the whole length of it to really make a difference. Whereas if you're using far too much energy, if it's this every stroke for a tune, so it's great to get it within, just maybe, kind of 5-6 inches, be able to play any tune within these gaps on the bow. So with that triplet, if you want to try it, I think that's exactly what it is. So if you get the triplet first, it's 3, and then that's it.
Are you switching them up one time, down the other time? Are you switching them? Are you playing one note between them?
It's one note, but whatever your next note would be, it could be. Maybe it's easier to do. Okay, I can slow that right down. So and that's if you also another way to make it easier is to try and bounce the bow at the same time. You're letting the bow do a lot of that work for you. Try to think of what we could like if I'll do it in that key just for sort of sake. To put it into a tune. You actually fit in 4 into 3. Which is the other thing that's weird, is like to fit that triplet into a space that doesn't really exist. It's the only way I can explain it, you know.
You can try it. Yeah. Okay.
It's fun, you know, there used to be a woman from Germany who used to come to Edinburgh a lot, and she played the Irish pipes. And she taught herself to play. She taught herself from O'Neill's book of Irish music. And when she came to the pub and she started to play, and everybody like sat there kind of dumbfounded because it was like some kind of Indian raga. And what she'd done is, like, when she was reading it from the page, she'd taken all the triplets and just added it into the bar. So rather than making it a part of the, all she was doing, every triplet was stretching the bar by whatever value it was. So you know, the tune was in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But all these,
what did that sound like?
well, I can't play it because I don't possibly understand how she did it.
Without just putting...
Do you know if the triplets? Well, she would do. I had no rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. But with this one, it's definitely it's 3 and then down to the next note you're playing. And if you try and bounce the bow, I mean, this is a thing. Again, it'll probably be just tedious sitting at home driving whoever's close to you completely out of the mind for ages. But if you know what it is, sometimes it's just easier to just stab at it wildly while you're playing the tune and see if it actually happens, because sometimes you could, when you start to think about this stuff too much, it'll never ever happen, and every time you come to it, it'll be a blockage rather than something that should flow,
Is that figure mostly associated with Irish, or do you also have that just much in the Scottish?
Also have it in Scottish, but I mean, I would say that, in Irish fiddle playing, the ornamentation is a more fluid thing. They tend to use longer bows in Irish music than they do in Scots bows. We use this thing called the up-driven bow or the down-driven bow, which is, instead of like a legato stroke, here we go. Or instead of,
Like a skip?
yeah, it's like skip, you're just driving it, and so instead of, so a lot of the ornamentation in Scottish music is like it's from the bagpipes, So all the crans, like the is the same as you get on the pipes, and you can actually do it on an open string. Which is a bit more difficult.
So you're actually plucking, yes?
You're actually plucking as you play. You're actually playing. So it's just. it's very handy because a lot of these pipe tunes they're either in A or you transfer them down to D, and so a lot of them start and so it's handy to be able to get there for these tunes. See, I always think this is funny. This is why I could never actually teach for a living, because I can't understand how people can't do it.
Yeah.
It's true. I just can't understand why, because all it is that, It's not.
Why can't you get it now?
But these, as I say, I was lucky enough when I was growing up. My brother plays the accordion, and there's a big accordion and fiddle club scene there, and all over Scotland. And that was why I eventually ended up playing the fiddle, because first of all I tried the accordion and I was really crap. And then my mum said, "My mother plays the piano," and so she said, "Well, I'll teach you how to play the piano so that I could do the piano, the Cayley band accompaniment." Well, I couldn't do that either. And so obviously one side of my brain is completely askew. And which is why we're all fiddle players. But my grandmother, I bought a fiddle from her next door neighbour whose husband played and who passed away, and gave it to me for my Christmas. And before the end of the day, I could actually knock something out of it. So the thing was that me and the brother were we'd sit and play the accordion and fiddle stuff, and we had a lot of visitors from Ireland who were coming over to do the circuit, the accordion and fiddle circuit, and they'd come to the house and we'd sit and play. And I never really played with other fiddle players until I was maybe, I must have been 12 or 13 years old. Most of the time I was playing with accordion players, piano players, and pipers. My next door neighbour was a piper. He was the pipe major of the Lothian and Borders Police pipe band. And I went to sleep every night to the sound of the pipes. His practice time was my bedtime. And I ended up, a lot of times when I was a kid too, I'd tune the fiddle up a half step so I could play in normal fingering along with the pipes. And so we called him Uncle Alec next door. It wasn't really my uncle. And we'd just, he'd bring his practice chanter into the house and we'd just sit and play tunes together. So my style is not, it's not Scottish and it's not Irish either. It's an amalgamation of everything really I grew up with, and I think I find myself lucky in that way that pretty much everybody who hears me play knows it's me. They just can't work out what the hell or why I'm bothered. But then I work a lot with Kevin Burke and with Christian Lemaitre, who's from Brittany, and we do this Celtic fiddle thing. And the weird thing is, we do our separate things and we play completely differently from each other, but when we play together, there's this weird synchronicity where everybody picks up, I think, on the core of that other culture, and that's what it boils down to. Like, it's a real kind of interesting fusion. But when we find ourselves, when we're playing a set of Irish tunes, we all play very Irish. And if it's a set of Scottish tunes, and Kevin and Christian are playing very Scottish. If it's a Breton tune, me and Kevin are playing very Breton. So it's like, I think that in any kind, for me, I just love to play the fiddle. I'm not an advocate of any specific style. And in fact, when I listen to a lot of Scott Skinner stuff, which is, I don't know if anybody, if you know who Scott Skinner was, a very famous Scottish fiddle player who became famous because he wrote some tunes that have passed into the Scottish tradition. But in fact, I have old playbills of his when he used to do the vaudeville and music hall concerts, and all of his stuff was classical, except for at the very end he'd play a selection of Scottish tunes. So his style is very, very classical and very mannered, and that has become a norm in a lot of Scottish fiddle music. And when I listen to that, I don't like it very much. There's this great melody, and then it's an excuse to do 8 million variations that really have nothing to do with the root of the music. And if truth be told, Scottish fiddle music has developed more truthfully along the lines it would have done had it not been for the Highland clearances, and most of the Highlands being cleared out and the fiddle players and pipers. The fiddle, the pipes, the language, everything was banned. And the lucky ones actually ended up being shipped out. So if you want to hear, basically the Cape Breton style of fiddle music at this point now is actually a truer look at what Scottish fiddle music might have been had it remained in Scotland at that level. And it only came back into any kind of popularity after Queen Victoria started hanging out in Scotland with her pal, Billy Cunningham. The whole Scottish thing very much came back into vogue, but it came back as a parlour style. And that's another reason why a lot of Scottish fiddle players have a rounder tone. There's more tone to it than a lot of Irish fiddle players. And then when you listen to the Cape Breton fiddle players, they're somewhere in between. Because it came back as a parlour music more than anything else. And until really the end of the Second World War. It was always viewed in a completely different way. It became a middle class music rather than a working class music.
How do you suppose Neil Gow might have played back then?
I'm sure pretty much. That's a really interesting question, because I'm positive that he grew up playing in a Baroque style, and in a lot of his music there's that classical influence. But at the same time, when you look at the tunes that he wrote, they're a much simpler style than anything Skinner wrote. There's another guy, James McIntosh, I don't know if you've heard of him, but there's a great book by a woman called Mary Ann Albuquerque, and I think it's called The Scottish Violinist. And it's a fascinating book, and one of the things it points out, there's been this whole fallacy about why in Scotland do they play tons of tunes in B flat or F or C or any of that, and the thing is so that's because they can play along with the pipes. But that's complete nonsense. No fiddle player has played with pipes, at least pipes in the key that pipes are in, a step up, until recently, when the advent of sound system where you can get a balance between the two. Before, a fiddle player would play with maybe a set of chamber pipes, which are actually a bellows blown Scottish pipe, much like the Irish pipes or Northumbrian pipes, or a smaller 1 or 2 reed back-blown pipe, which again wasn't in the step-up key. And the reason actually for these B-flat, C and F tunes is actually because James McIntosh, this fiddle player, was born with abnormally small hands. And he was a prolific writer of a ton of Scottish tunes. And it was easier for him to play in closed keys rather than... He liked it. And that's exactly... it's just because of someone's physicality that this happened, and the tunes became very popular.
I don't know, I'm kind of excited about it.
Or if you're really telling, really?
No, this is... I promise you, to the best of my knowledge, when I'm here with you, this is I'm telling you, this is the truth.
Because the guy has small hands.
Yes, exactly. He was born with and it was abnormally small hands. And if you can still get this book, I think it's still in print, and it's a really interesting book, and it deals a lot with James McIntosh. And if my memory serves me correctly, that is the book that mentions this, because it was a complete surprise to me too.
We'll have to try to get that.
Do you recommend
Mark O'Connor has my copy. He stole it from me.
That's the truth.
Yeah, Mary Ann Albuquerque is the writer, and it's a kind of history of Scottish film music.
Yeah.
Do you recommend any books for us to learn to play Irish and Scottish?
Well, Kerr's Merry Melodies. Do you stop? Kerr's Merry Melodies. They're fantastic little books, and the great thing about them is they don't have much ornamentation written in, and they're these just little square paper books that they have a lot of Irish tunes and a lot of Scottish tunes, and a lot of tunes that were played at the turn of the century. They were published in Scotland from Glasgow, and it was what a lot of the dance bands were playing. So there's a huge selection of the airs, jigs, they have these strains called plantation jigs, which are actually it's black music transposed for fiddle that are absolutely incredible. And all of this was played in Scotland at the turn of the century. And lots of polkas, there's slurs, there's great hornpipes, and there's stuff, you know, like...
What was that?
It's Kerr's Merry Melodies, and it's in there's 4 of them, I believe.
Would you be able to spell that?
Yes, Kerrs.
We'll try to get him for the show.
Kerrs. And Merry Melodies, and it's the reason I like them is because they're set out really well. There's a great choice, and you're not bogged down in terms of ornamentation. And the important thing, you know, ornamentation aside, the most important thing is the tune and the way you play the tune before you even deal with the ornamentation. And I think ornamentation is a very personal thing. But if you don't have that tune down, then it's a waste of time.
When you're playing,
I have it on my track.
oh, you hear like the core tune when you're playing, and then your fingers just sort of work around it.
Yeah, when I have
But
because
when
I
you're
love
in
to pick tunes that I really love melodically, and a lot of times if I'm learning a jig, I'll make it into a waltz. While I learn it, I'll take it from 6/8 to 3/4, so that I can find out what's actually inside that tune, the little rise and the fall in the tune. Or again, if it's a tune in 4/4, if it's a reel, I'll sometimes make it into an air while I'm learning it. Not because I want to learn it slowly, but because I'm searching for the little bits in that tune that make it different from another piece, you know? Because, I mean, you could take, let's think, let's do an Irish tune, because I'm sure there's kind of more Irish fiddle players here than Scots, but that great tune is, I'll play it with no ornamentation to start anyways. I used at all there was that triplet bow, but that is actually built into the tune. That's actually part of the tune, rather than an added ornamentation. If it's not there, it would be two beats short. And so when I first started learning that tune, to look at where I liked it, I started to play. Led me to find where I wanted to put the ornamentation in, where the actual the tune itself breathed. Because if you continuously think of I really don't like to think of reels or jigs anymore. I like to think of each tune as a separate piece of music that has its own identity, rather than lumping it in. Even if you're putting a set together, just making sure that each tune has its own character. And I think that way you begin to appreciate what you can do with the piece of music much more. And if you just start adding in the slower way, eventually, just take it up to where you want it. play with it, but because you know where the tune lies, and that's always there, where the tune sits, then you can add the rest of it in. And it's not important, really, what you do out with that kind of core, as long as you can hear the tune, and then you can have great fun with it, Put it backwards or upside down, or whatever.
What's your best advice for beginners?
Don't think.
Quit. A shot or two before practice.
Or a shot or two after. Steady the nerves and boost all the self-confidence you've lost. I think the most important thing is to listen. I think that, and to realise that, yes, you're listening and you might want to play like that, but the most important thing is never to play like that. The most important thing is to play the way you play and the way you feel it. So take all that information that you can get round about you, incorporate as much of it as you love into your own playing, and don't panic about trying to be correct, because there's no correct.
So no anxiety attacks allowed?
None. And, every your daughter gets some anxiety. There is not one point in any true tradition where something has stood still long enough for people to take a photo and say that's the way it was. Right. So the most important thing is to listen and understand the core of any tradition and be respectful of that. Obviously, you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't love that to start with, and then make it your own. You're making music. We're not curing cancer. It's supposed to be something that's enjoyable, and don't get wrapped up in the kind of. I know, especially in the session scene, one of the best. And Kevin Burke and myself talk about this a lot. There's a certain politics get involved, and throw them completely out the window. It's just when you get to a session, everyone should be listening to each other. It should be one voice as much as you can. So no matter what you've learned yourself before you get to the session, it's very important to give that up almost when there's people around you. So that, you might have the greatest ornamentation happening on this tune and these twists and turns, but if everyone else is playing it a different way, then you can do it the other way. But the best thing is when everyone in that situation is playing together and you get that great voice coming out. And I grew up with this stuff, so I don't hold much truck with people who try and pin it down. It's a constantly moving thing. Lots of the Irish fiddle style here is mostly based on Michael Coleman's fiddle playing, which was recorded in the early part of the last century. Hey, that's a very strange thing. And Michael Coleman actually played a lot faster than a lot of people played back in Ireland. He emigrated, and the weird thing was, now we don't know whether this was a process of whether he was in the recording studio and maybe he was nervous, or maybe what actually happened.
Too much coffee.
But then these record probably. But they went back to when these recordings went back to Ireland. It was there was a revolution in Irish fiddle music, because all the fiddle players there were going, God, listen, this is amazing. We never knew that this could be done. So it's a prime example of somebody moving away from where they were from and then completely turning things around by influencing everyone else. I don't know if anybody here knows Tommy Potts. Knows who Tommy Potts is. Now here's another. If you want to be blown away, as a kid, this was the first fiddle album that completely. When I suddenly realised the kind of thought that could go in to music and to make tunes fantastic, that not just scraping them out for the dance, but that as individual pieces of music that it's called the Liffey Banks, and it is available. Now I'm not sure what label, but I might be Shanachie, but it's Tommy Potts, and this guy was a fantastic fiddle player, and he lived on his own. He played whistle also, but when he played a tune, it's just it's almost like jazz. It's almost like avant-garde jazz, But unlike what I was talking about before, in terms of, taking the ornamentation out of context, his is completely in context. But it's like, it was a revelation to me when I was handing this record and I put it on. I wasn't even sure what I was listening to. I wasn't sure it was a fiddle for the first little while. You know that tune, The Butterfly? That's like a very plot. Yeah. That is his tune. And the version of it that actually Kevin Burke does
a nice, real interpretive version of it.
Well, I think he might have talked about Tommy Potts at the gig when he does that, because that's but that's a fantastic record to get. The Liffey Banks is really, really good.
Well, we'll have to
see about that.
There's just certain things that kind of really open your ears up to what you can do. And again, if you're not in the heart of things, I keep on having to go home to recharge batteries as regards the tunes. One thing that, the travel is so easy now that there is a lot of crossover. I don't feel so alienated by spending so much of my time here because a lot of people are travelling over here, and I get together with them. So the tunes that are popular back at home in sessions, whether it be Scotland or Ireland, I tend to get them fairly quickly. But that whole deal of like sitting and just getting the new tune is really important, but not lumping. And they don't do this. I know they've never done it in Scotland. Most sessions are never all instrumental. There's pretty much always singing as well as instrumental stuff, and it's never all reels and jigs. It's always a mixed bag of stuff. And I think if you appreciate that, then fiddle playing will get much better, because you won't just think about playing the fiddle, you'll think about interpreting the tune, and that's what it's all about anyway.
For those of us that came from a classical point of view, what would you really, it's sort of like letting go and let flow, using less of this.
Relax and realise that you have a technique that a lot of people who just started playing fiddle traditionally don't have.
Okay.
You kind of have to take a step backwards in a way and allow yourself to do things that you weren't allowed to do before.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You can actually slouch.
You can actually
slouch.
A pint while playing is fun. What? A pint while playing, makes it.
It's really funny. It's been years now. I can't have a drink before I play now. I allow myself, sometimes in the interval I'll have a glass of wine, but that's it. It's like these days are long gone. It was very easy when you're playing with a big band and you've got this huge sound, and it's like now, especially for solo concerts, because I've had a drink.
No way.
No, but it's good for practicing.
Yeah.
I'll sit in the house quite regularly with a bottle of wine and a packet of cigarettes and get lost. I'll start off practicing and then end up just playing for my own enjoyment. And I actually don't really see, this is the thing. I don't really know how to give you any kind of exercise per se that would help, because I don't do it that way. I think the best exercise is just to have at the tune until you enjoy playing it.
Let's play something.
What would you like? Let's see. Can we get anything
Irish?
common?
Then we can
something Irish.
Try
okay.
to, or whatever you want.
What do you think?
What does that butterfly sound like that you talked about? That song,
The Butterfly.
Oh yeah. Does everybody have
I have absolutely no idea what that is.
It's a jig?
It's a jig, yeah. Well, what if I'll play it real slowly. Let's play it real slowly. to play it the way they normally play it with their ornamentation. Yeah? Because, maybe, and then I'll show what I would do. That's lovely. It's a lovely sounding fiddle too. Thanks. Now have it.
You gonna try it?
Sure. So. So it comes back to this. I think probably the most difficult part of the whole deal is the bow. I think once you get the fingers down, it's like that kind of comfort level with the bow is difficult. And I was noticing again when you were playing, your forearm is very stiff. It's stiff. And you can make it easier on yourself. With more wrist.
I do that when I'm nervous.
There's no reason to be nervous. I'm a doctor.
Yes, you're right, though.
And it's a thing actually nobody thinks about either. And I know it might sound stupid, but if I do sit down to play, especially myself at home, I can make a conscious effort to really kind of bring myself kind of down, I just like try and kind of breathe easy for a while and feel really loose before I start playing, and I try and do that before gigs too, because if I start at the wrong level, then I can't get back.
Yeah.
It's like I sort of and you start off and you have that shaky bow thing happening, your heart's pounding so hard that you try and play a long note, it's like great vibrato, but it's really crap.
On the Eastern, that.
Oh, that's sometimes if your string's not placed right, or like last night, it happened a few times to me last night. I put a new string on when I opened the fiddle case in where the hell was it? Taos. They'd all burst.
Oh, the albums.
So I had to change the strings, and this actually I changed the position of this morning and moved this down. Mm-hmm. Sometimes before it settles in, you'll get that weird, it's like an overtone,
That's terrible.
Well, and the best advice I can give you for that is to actually learn to enjoy that sound.
Yeah. We've all tried to figure out what makes that sound. That's
well, sometimes too you have to. I noticed that before the string settles in, you then have to make a conscious effort to bow properly on the E, and that's actually a thing that happens is people are sometimes lazy on the E because it's a lighter string. You think you don't have to pay as much attention to it, and that's sometimes what happens when you come over. You get, but you should be fine if you draw it out. But but that sometimes will just happen anyway, especially like on a new string. I think.
Well, I thought, I thought it was because my string. The last gig we played, I had a lot of trouble with it. And I thought it was because my old string that I needed to change.
Yeah. Do you ever, I get mine.
Too much rosin is stuck on it, right?
Mine fray.
Yeah, mine do too.
And then you get that.
That
buzz.
So,
a little extra percussion.
What kind of strings do you like?
I used the Tomastic, the Perlon core, and I've used them forever. I just like the way they respond halfway between the brighter steel strings and the gut strings, and I've never had a problem with them. I really like them, except they just keep on getting more and more expensive all the time.
Right.
But with any luck, if things don't go wrong, a set of strings can last you quite a long time.
Just get them to sponsor you when you get free.
I actually for a while back I did that. And then they brought in these new ones, and when they wanted me to test the new ones, I really didn't like them, and I told them that, and then they kind of got...
And that was
they kind of went in the huff with me,
Have you tried the Junker strings?
I have. I personally don't like them, but the thing is,
it depends on the fiddle.
So I was just about to say that. It depends on the fiddle. It depends on how you play. I mean, all of this stuff is it's really personal. You can set the fiddle up, in the most perfect way possible, and that same fiddle will sound completely different when two different people play it. So if you don't have you can get a crappy fiddle and be able to make it sound great if you do the right things with it. I mean, I played a Strad, one that went for I think, 2 or 3 million at Christie's. And I was looking for a new fiddle, and actually I ended up buying a little, it was Kloss, a little Baroque fiddle. But this guy, Fred Oster, he asked me to try all these different fiddles, and he keeps a book, and each player that comes in gives their comments, and I had this one thing, and I'm playing it, and I'm going, well, this was kind of nice, and it sounded kind of better on the slower tunes, but I didn't really like it that much. And I said to him, that's a lovely fiddle. I said, but I bet a classical player would probably make much more out of it than I would. And he burst out laughing. He said, that's more on the block for, starting at $1.5 million. I'm going, well, maybe I won't be. Have you got something a bit more expensive? But I'm sure if you told me what it was before I put it in my hand, I would be looking for reasons to think it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's really what you pull out of it, yourself. Does any of you play? Any Scottish tune? You play any Scottish stuff? Very good.
Honey's Son.
That's the Scottish tune? I can't remember. There's no honeysuckle in Scotland.
Oh, okay.
How about Farewell to Whiskey? I like that one. That's a milk out tune.
Can you start it for me?
I'm not sure. At the moment.
Is that?
Yes, that's it.
What key did you play in?
One chart? I don't know.
That one sounds good.
That one sounds great.
Actually. This is a good example of how you use the up-driven bow on these. it's like, again, you can mess around with them. There's tons of different ways of doing these tunes.
Is that a Scottish version of what you would consider to be a Scottish style?
Yeah, that's basically how, we'd probably play that like that. Again, with lots of these. That, pushing up. If, playing the Irish style would probably. There you go. Demonstrate anything for you.
The bow doesn't leave the string.
Yeah, it's a much more legato, and there's a lot more ornamentation.
That whole bow leaving the string thing is an issue that I have.
Why, do you like it to leave the string, or you like to keep it on there?
I don't even do it consciously, but it does leave the string.
That's about right.
Well, she's like.
Oh, you
hoist it hard.
Oh, it leaves the string in a bad way.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I hoist it.
That's another thing that will stop happening if you torture yourself by practicing with a chair. Because what you're doing is you're basically using your whole arm. Can I see you do it?
Oh, good God. What song do I play it on?
Well, it's good. You have a choice. It's great. And it's always good to have choice.
That's right.
Because maybe I could spot something that might happen.
I'm trying to think something that I keep getting corrected for.
So you know what happens? You'll start playing this thing and not do it.
People, it's helpful.
Maybe we could all play that last song together. Scottish style.
Absolutely.
Oh, you were like doing California. You were doing.
That's this one,
right?
right?
So man. No, that's.
I can already see a problem.
I look like I'm in pain when I play.
Well, it's not that. I do that too. Try loosening your bow a half turn. Because what's happening? Your bow's already bouncing off the strings because of the tension.
So not to shoot arrows with it, just to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just play this in.
Oh, good God.
That's all start to happen. It's still moving on the next one. You see that portion.
Wow! I can't play anymore.
Well, if you...
That's not funny.
I don't feel like my wrist is very big.
If you remember, this should stay still, this should move. Use your elbows as a counterweight, and bow from there. Then the potential, because the bow will jump up and down like that anyway. If you try doing that, it will always be jerky. And just remember, you can use the length of your arm to do that, even though you're going in a small space. See, it's hard for it to jump up when you're doing it that way.
Not good, no.
There you go. It'll be a torturous process while you get into the way of doing that and not do what you did before.
Oh, okay.
That's that. It's like it gets, but it's worth it. It really is worth. Don't drive yourself daft with it. But take like 10 minutes every day, and try and do that just to get it.
It was cool.
When you played it in the Scottish style, you didn't do what I think a lot of Americans associate with the Scottish, which would be the kind of.
But that's a specific tune too, like it's a Strass Bay thing. So they're the. But now I forgot how to play. So that's what happens now. I'll go home. You'll have sucked all my playing away. I'm only joking. I'll be fine by 4. Yeah. It's really weird when I think about how to do it. It's like. So if say it's a simple Strathspey. This is actually one we could maybe all learn pretty quick. Was it? It's only ever bowed that way for these specific tunes. Mm-hmm. So it's just, the Strathspey, that's the easiest way to show the difference between an Irish tune and a Scottish tune. It's like to play it, you can, if you played that as a Strathspey, I think Gene trusts the string. But that's a really kind of easy way to show like a very basic difference between the two styles. And the closer you get to the north of Ireland, when you get to Donegal, a lot of the Irish fiddle style becomes more Scottish because it's the Donegal. Actually, the language in Donegal to Donegal Irish is closer to Scots Gaelic than other parts of the country. But there's a great, if you want to explore that, there's a great book called The Northern Fiddler, or The Northern Fiddle Player, I think it's called. And that's a great collection of tunes that kind of cross. There's a lot of versions of Scottish tunes. Actually, they call Strathspeys their Highlands. So that, So, do you want to have a stab at that? See that tune just. I'll play it really slow. And it was. It's called cutting bracken or pulling ferns or. So the first two is a. And the other common thing to make things very Scottish is what we call the snap. It's always the note before. So it'll be. The Highlands. Well, actually, that's also something that you just played that you play in there. It's also very acceptable and very nice. Looking at me, it's like, I wish I had my camera. It's like pure venom. I'll count it. 1, 2, 3, Then. So it's. Yeah. See, they're actually very hard to play at a slower speed because of that. You know. Comes in handy. It's much more difficult to go. Because what you should be doing is finding a way to make the bow do all the work for you. You shouldn't be working that hard. You know? Don't work hard. Another bit of advice. I've not been working hard all my life. Second half is one more time. Phrase is just I played the wrong thing, I'm sorry. I've turned it backwards. I'm a little bit dyslexic. It's down. Down. The whole 2 second sections. so I mean, these are just like wee basic things, and again, the best thing you can do is just, you know, listen and stab away yourself, you know, and not torture yourselves. If you get fed up away, have a glass of wine or something, you know, or go for a walk. Sometimes it's better to practice in, like, you know, I tend to leave my fiddle around the house, you know, and so I'll walk past and pick it up and, you know, play for a wee bit, and then sometimes it's actually better than sitting down and saying, like, okay, there's an hour of this or 2 hours of that, and, you know, there's something, I only really sit down and practice for long periods of time if I have to specifically learn something for, you know, something I'm doing. The rest of the time I just like to kind of just play and experiment and feel free to be as, like, rubbish as possible, you know, because I know that, you know, all through the times I've been playing, I keep hitting these plateaus where you think, you know, you'll never get any better, you know, it's like you find that you can't break through, and the more you think about it, well, for me anyway, the more I think about it, the more panicked I get, and then nothing happens, and then I actually forget about it one day, you know, it's like, oh, you know, that's what I meant, you know, so I think a lot of it just has to do with not caring.
Don't care.
Don't work hard, don't care.
Let it flow.
Yes, grow to love the horror of it all. No, it's no, because it should be an enjoyable thing. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's like, you know, I sometimes, like, you know, I go to sessions and I see people, and the seriousness of it all makes me want to weep. You know, it's like, that's not, you know, that's not the point. The point is for people to make music together and have a great time and communicate in that way, and, you know, it's not something that should be sitting in a museum somewhere. You know, don't worry about making any kind of example of anything except of yourself. And I've made a few examples of myself in the days. I wonder how these guys are coming in so you can rip through it.
That last one you played, just a technical thing. When you did that dotted rhythm, was it on the same bow? Or
which one I did? Yeah, it was.
Or when you went down too.
Yeah, because what you're doing is that's that same snap. So it's just another thing. I mean, you'll notice it's not a regular thing. It's the dotted rhythms aren't all in the same place, so it's not like you play it here. Which you have to watch out for, because that's what people kind of perceive it as being, whereas, you know, it's this. Change it from the there's a great one for doing that. As long as you're not playing it for dancing, there's great room in Strathclyde to really mess about, and there's this great one called Brisk Bob. They would. Especially in Scotland, where we are number one. You can also play this like as a reel. the 4/4 Strasbass, you can mess with them.
I noticed when you play a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, every once in a while you stick in this part where it's all stretched out, like you're bowing through molasses or something, and it's
that's when I'm blacking out.
But it sounds really cool, but it's almost like it's off rhythm.
Like, tell me.
I don't know when you were playing, not the real, but the Strasbass. These times where you're like, yeah, and I can see your body kind of stretching.
That's the only exercise I get. It's the Johnny Cunningham aerobics. It comes with a deep breath. Yeah, I mean that's something that you have the luxury of doing. Like playing with Aidan is great because we've kind of played together off and on enough that he can actually feel it coming, and he but again, that's something that you would never do that for dancing, but it's just something. I think musically, again, these tunes are all formula. I always say, and I'm not entirely joking when I say that in most traditional music, it's the same tune with a different name. And luckily enough, it's a fantastic tune. And that's why it's really important to, as I was saying before, is to explore musically what makes that specific reel or that specific jig or polka something beautiful and something that you want to play. And there's always a rise and a fall somewhere in there that makes it interesting. And another thing to play around with it is changing the rhythms to these pieces of music. I don't know, that do you know that the Fox Hunters jig? It's a very popular one, the Irish Sessions is. What they call a slip jig, which is in kind of like 90, but then you can really mess with it and almost take it into a polka type of way. And it's different ways of just discovering what that same sequence of notes can actually mean. And that's why I'm saying once you have the notes down, it's the bow that becomes important. And what's that? With that I mean, it's a great old tune, it's very popular, but I think it's better as a polka. Stuff when you're sitting around at home, I'd really encourage you to just. The wake will be over it. But so what else can I help you with? Or
did you say when you're playing an F or C you might play up a second position?
Me? I never go there.
You demonstrated it, didn't you? When you said the guy with the small hand that.
Oh yeah, no. All I was doing is because I don't have the full use of that finger. I just
So how do you play it? Let's show me how you play an F or C. Let's see.
What's an F?
Well, I don't know. You said Scottish.
I'll play and C. I mean, look how close the fingers are together then. I mean, you don't have to do anything. It's just all together.
That's the best example of not doing anything that I've ever seen.
But when then you're in A and there's kind of stretch thing happening.
But you rarely never go in the second and third position.
There's some tunes that demand it, like these hornpipes that like. Yeah, demand that. Yeah. That's why. For what?
How we converge in sanctuary.
Sanctuary is definitely all.
But again, and I have the. You start off from a very great position with the classical because you have like a freedom of movement that I don't have.
Yeah. But it's really noticing how different it is, from classical, which is great.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I always say to people, hey, if you don't get caught up in how important these techniques are, if you're not learning specifically for classical music, and if it's something to improve your own technique, then I'm all for it. I mean, anything you have under your fingers is great. It's just the trick is when somebody tells you that's the only way to do it, laugh in their face because it's not. So you basically have to adjust to whatever you've been given. The size of your hands. I mean, how many classical players do you know that have to have the back surgery, wrist surgery, the big nodules in here, because of if you want the most uncomfortable thing in the world, that
pretty much does it.
Who came up with that? The Marquis de Sade.
Like we're going to sit upright, and you have to sit here on the edge of your seat, right?
Oh my God!
I mean, it's just like again though, if you can discipline yourself to go through that and to have that stuff on your fingers, I think it's a wonderful thing. I think the ability to read is a great thing too, but I think a hard thing that happens to a lot of classical players who start to play this kind of music is they find it very hard to read it the way it should sound because they process the notes rather than the music. Yes. Which is why I think it's much easier for a classical player. The best thing is to get down and start to really listen. And it's an instrument, and the great thing is there's tons of different sounds you can get out of it, and the experimentation is fun. Yeah, it's really bad, but back can be beautiful sometimes too.
It's like playing. Have you ever played with the back of your bow? Like in...
When I've been really drunk.
Actually, in reverse case, night on Ball Mountain, everybody keeps the bow. And it's a little bit eerie sounding.
Yeah, I've had to play pieces that way before.
I like to do
like Chinese.
Yeah, Chinese, one finger. But I can't stress too much of the fact that this, I know that I'm luckier than 98% of people in the world to have this as part of my existence. And sometimes when everything else in the world has failed me, this will fail me too.
You have to come along with it.
No, I can't resist doing things, but really it's been. But sometimes it is kind of sometimes the truest form of any kind of expression. If you mean what you play, I can be very cynical about things, and I like to look at things in a very warped way because that's the way I am. But I love the way this thing makes me feel, and it doesn't matter what you say between what you're doing. If you do what you're doing and mean it, then that's all that's important. It's all about the music, and if you can get rid of all the crap round about it, if ego should disappear, just because there's nothing better than playing with somebody else. I've played with kids that have just picked the fiddle up, and somehow they've a better grasp of what that piece of music should be than like people that I know that are like technically unbelievable. And there's something great just being sitting and playing with other people that's what makes it all. So we're going to go next door and have a stab at this.
Yeah.
For Sanctuary. We'll go for Sanctuary now.
And then I'll keep singing it and you can get some ideas. Let's see what other key. What key is that? What D minor?
D.
What about C? It's early in the day. 6.
A minor.
Yeah, something higher than A minor, like C would be great.
C minor.
Yeah, I think that's
C minor.
that'll do.
Okay, thank you.
And,
This is where I have my first C minor. It's not the favourite.
yeah, that's. Oh, really?
Well,
Is that a drag? Can we do a D? Either.
No, do the C minor.
Okay.
C minor.
You're in that mood.
Never let
You're in that mood.
Then we can use our tiny fingers all stuck together.
Okay. Whatever the singer says.
Yes.
So what is it? The first time that I met my love, it was on Tavern Green, and I would wait with all my heart. Her face I'd never see. It was her killing glances that wounded my heart so. For I was sick and not in love till I could love no more. Oh, love, it is a killing thing. I hear the people say, and for to love and not be loved, it would
like that.
Yeah, and that third line. Oh, with great sport and play. It's lovely. I've never heard it done like that dark, and I love that dark. We might want to put in a couple of chords that'll.
Yeah, go to a G major on that.
Well,
I know G minor.
That's lovely.